Hi, Denise Naylor here and welcome to News Views on Friday the 16th of February 2018. There's a lot in the news this time of year as companies report their 2017 results, but I'd like to focus on one particular news item that came out this week, and that is a headline: Fairburn, I will give some of my bonus, my £110 million bonus, to charity. Reported on the 14th, Wednesday the 14th of February in the London Evening Standard. Now, the background to this is that Mr. Fairburn, Mr. Jeff Fairburn, is a director of Persimmon PLC. Persimmon is a construction company, and he has been awarded through a bonus scheme in the company a bonus of £110 million. Now, there's a lot of discussion in the press about the size of the bonus and whether the scheme is fair and things like that, but I want to come at this from a slightly different angle. And I want to take the emphasis on the fact that Persimmon is a PLC. Now, I'm sure you know what that stands for, a public limited company. There are two types of company in the United Kingdom: a public limited company, PLC, and a private company, which is normally known as a limited company or an LTD. The Companies Act defines a private company, and it defines it as any company that specifies or restricts who can own the shares in the company. So, for example, I own a small publishing company, and in the memorandum and articles of association of the company, the rules of the company, it states quite clearly that Denise Naylor is the shareholder of the company. I would guess that more than 99% of companies across the world are private companies. And in a private company, the owner puts the money in, the owner is enterprising and entrepreneurial, and if things go well, makes a profit and is entitled to take the profit out of the company after tax and in accordance with the law. A public limited company is any company that is not a private company. So it's defined in opposition to a private company. It's not defined as such. But the point about a public limited company is that it usually has a large number of shareholders. Now, the director's duties are the same as we saw last week, no matter the size of the company. But remember that the director's duty in law is to maximise the welfare of the shareholders and the returns to the shareholders. So if Mr. Fairburn feels, for whatever reason, and that's his personal opinion, and I'm not going to get into detail about it, that he doesn't deserve all of his £110 million bonus, should he be giving it to charity? Well, in my opinion, no. In my opinion, that should be a decision for the individual. The shareholder should receive the rewards from the company's profitability, and the shareholders can then decide if they wish to give to charity or not. So what could Mr. Fairburn do? Well, if we look at the Companies Act 1967, here's my copy, and this is enacted under a Labour government. It's actually quite a comparatively narrow piece of legislation for the UK, but it was quite controversial at the time, and we used to call it the Disclosure Act. Section 6 requires disclosure in the financial statements of the amounts of directors' emoluments. Emoluments means any earnings that a director has from a company. So it could be salary, bonus, pension, benefits in kind, fees, expenses, anything like that. And Section 7 requires disclosure of amounts of directors' emoluments, the right to receive which have been waived. In other words, the company has granted emoluments to that director, but for some reason or another, the director has not taken them up. And that means the money goes back into the company. Now, when I was training in the 1970s, we quite frequently saw directors who had, it was reported, they'd waived their emoluments, or part of their emoluments, and that money had gone back into the company, not to charity. And that, in my opinion, is the correct way. So if Mr. Fairburn feels he has received rather a lot of bonus, perhaps he feels a bit guilty about it, I don't know. I'm not a shareholder in Persimmon PLC, I'm an outsider to the situation, then I would suggest that he waives that bonus. Then the money will go back to the company. Another interesting feature of the 1967 Companies Act was that it required for the first time companies to disclose political and charitable donations. And this caused directors to think, a bit carefully about how they were using shareholders' money. So I think on the whole, that's really been a good provision. And we don't see many companies now who make political donations. So thanks for listening and watching. Thanks for supporting Cash Genie Global, and do join me again.